Janis Joplin would have bloomed into a legendary artist, but her life was suddenly cut short. The real reason for her sudden death remained a mystery for a long time, but new information coming out is making it clearer and clearer. What's the real reason for her death, and why was she attacked by everyone around her till her death? Let's find out while showing you some of her rare photos. Janis Joplin was a uniquely gifted child, born on January 19, 1943, in Port Arthur, Texas. She excelled both academically and artistically in school. But growing up in the small town of Port Arthur wasn't easy for young Janis. This ruthless and unforgiving environment was no place for someone as special as her. She faced constant cruelty, bullying, and rejection from her peers, leading to a deep sense of alienation and frustration. But there was only one thing she found comfort in: music. It was her escape from the harsh realities of life, and she poured her heart into it. Janis Joplin's journey as a musician started early. She recorded her first song, "What Good Can Drinkin' Do," in December 1962 at the age of 19 while attending the University of Texas. This recording was just the beginning of her tumultuous yet extraordinary musical career that would touch millions of hearts worldwide. But her life was about to take a drastic turn when she made the decision to leave Texas and move to San Francisco, looking for a new beginning. Janis needed to escape, to break free from the chains of her troubled mind. And San Francisco, with its vibrant and counterculture scene, seemed like the perfect place for her to find peace and acceptance. However, things didn't go as planned for Janis in San Francisco. She soon found herself falling into a spiral of excessive drinking and drug use. Her singing gigs, once filled with joy and passion, now became a blur as she struggled to cope with the pressure to perform while battling her personal demons. Her reputations as a speed freak and an occasional user of heroin spread among record executives, who were more interested in her wild lifestyle than her musical talent. As her reliance on drugs grew, so did her troubles. In 1963, she was arrested for shoplifting in Berkeley, which only added to her already chaotic life. But despite the warning signs, Janis couldn't break free from the grip of drugs and alcohol. She found herself on Skid Row, relying on soup kitchens and charity to survive. Even the drugs she'd been consuming started to show their effects, making her physical appearance deteriorate rapidly. Her friends and family, witnessing her downfall, were worried sick about her. They knew something needed to change, and fast. So they came up with a plan: the bus fare party. The goal was to raise enough money to send Janis back home to Texas, hoping it would help get her back on track. And in a way it did, but only for a short while. Janis arrived back in Port Arthur in the spring of 1965, a mere shadow of her former self. She was frail and sickly, weighing only 88 pounds. But she was determined to turn her life around. She gave up drugs and alcohol, embraced a new look with her signature beehive hairdo, and even enrolled as an anthropology major at Lamar University. Deep down, Janis knew she couldn't stay in Port Arthur. Her true calling was music, and she needed to return to San Francisco to make it happen. And so she did. Janis returned to San Francisco in 1965, and this time she was ready to take on the world. She started performing solo gigs in Austin while commuting between her university classes at Lamar University and music lessons in San Francisco. She even performed at a benefit for legendary bluesman Mance Lipscomb, despite struggling with stage fright and anxiety. But just when things seemed to be looking up, life threw another curveball at Janis, an engagement that wasn't meant to be. In the fall of 1965, she became engaged to a man named Peter DeBlanc. They planned to get married and start a new life together, but fate had other plans. Peter's job as an IBM worker required extensive travel, making it difficult for them to maintain their relationship. Eventually, they called off the engagement, leaving Janis heartbroken and vulnerable. Despite this setback, Janis continued her journey of self-discovery and personal growth. She started seeing a psychiatric social worker named Bernard Giarratano, who helped her confront her inner struggles. Giarratano later revealed in interviews that Janis was torn between her desire for success as a musician and the fear of falling back into the dark world of drugs and alcohol. But he also assured her that she didn't have to rely on narcotics to succeed in the music industry. He encouraged her to embrace her unique talent and use it to make a name for herself without compromising her health and well-being. And that's precisely what Janis did. She started performing regularly at the Coffee Gallery in North Beach, San Francisco, where she caught the attention of Chet Helms, a promoter for Big Brother and the holding company. Chet saw something special in Janis and convinced her to join the band as their lead singer. At first, Janis was hesitant about joining the band. She feared falling back into her old habits in San Francisco and didn't want to let her family down again. She had such worst memories of her time in San Francisco, but something inside her told her that this was the opportunity that she had been waiting for. Against all odds, she accepted Chet's offer and joined Big Brother and the holding company on June 4, 1966. Her first public performance with the band was at the Avalon Ballroom in San Francisco, and it was a huge success. Her powerful vocals combined with the psychedelic sound of Big Brother captivated the audience and gained her a significant following in the city's hippie community. Janis had finally found her place in San Francisco as a musician, something she never thought possible during her previous stay. But even with her newfound success, Janis couldn't escape the temptation of drugs and alcohol. She had made a promise to herself and her family that she would stay away from drugs, but the pressure of performing and constant touring led her back to old habits. Her bandmates, specifically keyboardist Steven Ryder, tried to keep her away from drugs, but it was inevitable. One incident that particularly stands out is when Janis walked in on bandmate Travis Rivers and his friends injecting drugs in their shared apartment. She went nuts, screaming and crying at them for breaking the promise they made not to use needles around her. This incident showed just how much Janis struggled with her addiction and how hard she fought to stay sober. But despite her efforts, she couldn't fully escape the grip of drugs and alcohol. Despite her personal struggles, Janis and Big Brother continued to rise in popularity. They played at iconic venues such as the Fillmore West, Winterland Ballroom, and the Avalon Ballroom. Their performance at the Monterey Pop Festival in June 1967 solidified their status as a top band in the counterculture movement. Their debut album, Big Brother and the Holding Company, was released shortly after the festival and featured some of their biggest hits like Down on Me and Cuckoo. But even with all the success, Janis remained a tortured soul, constantly battling her inner demons. This inner turmoil came to a head when the band went to Chicago in early 1968. It was supposed to be a turning point for them, the opportunity to record their second album with Mainstream Records, something they had been dreaming of since their formation. However, things didn't go as planned. The person who promised to help fund the record ran out of money, leaving Big Brother stranded in Chicago with no means to get back home. They were stuck in a city that showed them little kindness and struggled financially. To make matters worse, the music they recorded in Chicago didn't turn out as great as they had hoped. Feeling defeated and discouraged, Big Brother returned to San Francisco. The dream that once seemed within reach now felt like it was slipping away. But just when things were at their lowest, a ray of hope appeared on July 31st, 1968, Janis's national TV debut on This Morning. Although it ended up being a sad reminder of her struggles due to the accidental erasure of the video footage, it also marked a turning point for Janis. From here on out, she would be seen as more than just an outsider. She was now a strong-willed rock icon with a powerful voice that expressed her innermost emotions. This newfound success led to Big Brother and the holding company signing with a major label, Columbia Records, in 1968. Their album, Cheap Thrills, became a huge hit, reaching #1 on the charts and featuring songs like Piece of My Heart, which climbed to #12. Janis had finally achieved the success she had been working towards for so long, but her personal demons continued to haunt her. In 1969, she left Big Brother and the holding company to form a new band called the Cosmic Blues Band, which seemed like a fresh start at first. However, the temptation of heroin pulled her back into its deadly grip, and her addiction only worsened, making her spend $200 a day just on heroin. It even started taking a toll on her career, affecting her performance and relationships within the band. Despite the struggles, Janis continued to push through and make a name for herself. She went on to have her first performance at Woodstock on August 17, 1969, which was met with mixed reviews. While some were excited to see her perform, Others were disappointed by her weakened voice and unsteady dancing, both symptoms of her addiction. Even once when she sang with Tina Turner, another music icon, the drugs still had a hold on her and affected her performance negatively. Janis's addiction was spiraling out of control, even leading to her arrest in November 1969 for using vulgar and obscene language. This incident showed just how much her addiction had taken over and affected her behavior. But amidst her struggles, there were brief moments of happiness for Janis. She fell in love with David Nihas while on a trip to Brazil and managed to stay out of drugs and alcohol for a short time. It was like a warm break for her tired heart. But unfortunately, it didn't last long, as her addiction soon resurfaced when she returned to the United States. But soon enough, she found love again, and this time it was with Peggy Casserty, who also struggled with drugs. Their relationship added even more complications to her already troubled life. So instead of indulging into heartbreak and sadness, she started a new band called Full Tilt Boogie in 1970, determined to keep striving for a better career. Their music was well received, but the darkness and loneliness still lingered within Janis. Despite her claims of leaving drugs and drinking, she continued to struggle with alcohol and drugs, which only added more weight to her already heavy heart. And while she received praise and accolades from her fans and peers, internally, she was still a troubled soul looking for an escape. Tragically, that escape came on October 4th, 1970. Janis was found dead in her room at the Landmark Motor Hotel with a broken nose and bloody lips. The official cause of death was determined to be a heroin overdose, possibly compounded by alcohol. Heroin use had always been a part of Janis's life, but her tolerance for the drug had changed over time. Her friend Peggy Casserta believed that she may have been given a stronger dose than usual, leading to her accidental overdose. Regardless of how it happened, Janis's death sent shockwaves through the music industry and her fans worldwide. They mourned the loss of a talented and troubled soul taken far too soon. In the aftermath of her death, there were many questions and speculations about what led to Janis's untimely demise. Her friends and loved ones were left with feelings of guilt and regret for not being able to save her. Peggy Casserta admitted to feeling responsible, as she had promised Janis that she would visit her in Los Angeles, but didn't make it until after she had already passed away. Seth Morgan, Janis's fiancé at the time, had also failed to keep their plans of seeing each other shortly before her death. According to Casserta, Joplin was deeply saddened by the absence of Morgan and Casserta. She expected them to visit her at the Landmark Motor Hotel that Friday evening, but they didn't show up. This added to her already fragile state of mind. During a phone conversation with Morgan within 24 hours before her death, she became very angry. Unfortunately, little is known about the details of that call or how it may have affected Janis emotionally. Casserta claims that Janis's death resulted from a head injury she sustained after her slingback sandal got caught in the shag carpet, causing her to lose balance. However, it is widely accepted that drugs and alcohol played a role in hastening her death. Janis's heroin use had increased in the days leading up to her death, making an accidental overdose more likely. After her death, Janis was cremated at Pierce Brothers Westwood Village Memorial Park and Mortuary in Los Angeles. Her ashes were scattered into the Pacific Ocean from a plane, representing her free spirit and love for adventure. But even in death, Janis Joplin's legacy lives on. Her album, Pearl, which was released after her passing, became a huge success with songs like Me and Bobby McGee and Mercedes-Benz. She continues to inspire generations of musicians and fans with her unique voice and the raw emotions expressed through her music. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to check out other videos on the end screen of beautiful ladies from the yesteryears.